things your iPhone has replaced, and a bad call by Google. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Zocdoc. Find doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. Download the free Zocdoc app at zocdoc.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Tuesday night. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time it is, wherever you are. We are on MacVoices Live, and we hope you are too. We hope you've joined us in the YouTube channel at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. If you haven't and are watching this, get over there because we want your comments and thoughts as well. And if not, hey, mark it off for next Tuesday, same time, same station, because this is what we do on Tuesday nights. We have a lot of topics to get through tonight. A couple things I want to let you know, though. First off, in case it's not obvious, I am in a hotel room this time around, so things may not look the same. I may not quite sound the same, but, you know, it's one of those things. You just got to work with what you have. It also might be interesting for you to note that a couple of days ago, as we record this, probably a week or so, as you get it if you're on the feeds, I did a MacVoices briefing on the Anchor PowerConf webcam, and that's what I'm using tonight because of the low light handling. Unfortunately, my hotel room has exactly two very yellow bulbs in it, so I couldn't find a drugstore to go out and buy a white bulb. So I look a little bit yellow. Sorry about that. The other thing I want to mention before we get started, I've been posting calls for things that our MacVoices Slack patrons would like to see us talk about. And that's really working out well. Some folks have thrown some ideas in there. We're involving the Slack patrons more and more. So if you'd like to be part of that, macvoices.com/support or patreon.com/MacVoices. Anything at any level gets you access to all of this, and MacVoices After Dark as well. So with that, let's run around the table here, see who's here, and we'll get to it. Taking my screen as I always do. First up, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, welcome. It's good to have you.
Good to be here. Glad you were able to make it here this week, Chuck. And lots to talk about. Yeah, it was a lot of good stories and a lot of good stuff that's happening in the world of Apple, for sure.
Yeah. Mr. Jim Ray, who's still trying to figure out why his chest is doing what it's doing, is here with us. Jim,
no,
welcome.
It's fixed.
Oh, it's fixed?
It's fixed.
Okay. Okay. Wonder what it was.
Oh, I had the Zoom software thought I told it there was a green screen.
I see. Got it. Okay. Warren Sklar is here, in spite of the fact he said he wouldn't be. He's here. I think his wife got tired of him and sent him to the basement.
If I kept you guessing every week, I've done my job. This way, you're surprised or you're not. If I'm here, I'm here. Anyhow, we watched some Game of Thrones prequels, and now I'm here. So good to see you.
Good to have you. Beside him is Frank Gorshin. No. Jim Carrey. No. Mark Fuccio.
Hello,
Mark,
everyone.
good to have you.
Good to be here.
If anybody didn't understand, those were Riddler references, but I'm sorry.
Mark, that is your best backdrop ever.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I like that one. Last but absolutely not least, of course, is Mr. Jeff Gamet. Jeff, good to have you as well.
It's great to be here, as always. And I will say with full conviction, Frank Gorshin was a brilliant Riddler. Like he was absolutely disturbing, as he should be. And so many people look at the 1960s Batman as just silly camp stuff, but holy crap, they came out swinging. The very first episode of the TV series was the Riddler, and Frank Gorshin owned that episode. And every time he was back playing the Riddler, he owned the episode. That man was the best.
here we go off the rails right away, but who cares? I agree with you. You're right that some of the things about the original 60s Batman were a little overdone, but that character, the way he portrayed that character was, in my
and with
Chuck
that,
Reed?
the Riddler has taken over Chuck's feed.
Yes, it have.
He lasted 10 minutes almost.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
That's not too bad.
That is pretty good.
It does look like he's trying to figure out the Riddler.
He
Well,
is.
Frank
Riddle
Ocean
me
did
this,
have a
Chuck.
good laugh.
Yeah. We could talk real fast about it and see if he comes back about the new Riddler is good. The movie from Batman. I don't know his name.
Oh,
The new Batman movie that just came out with Batgirl. Riddler was just a guy.
yeah, the Batman Year One movie.
Yeah. With the guy from Twilight or whatever.
Okay, he's going to join back in. So who's in control? David, you
Yeah,
or
Did he
Jeff?
tell-
either one of us.
Let's have a food fight. Let's see who. Okay, so David, you're in control. What's our first topic?
Did he say he was going to join back in, or we're not sure?
Speculation on my part.
Well,
Yeah.
let's go to the first topic I see in here is the 101 things your iPhone has replaced. This was an article in iMore that was put in here, and I don't know if anybody had a chance to read through this, but this does have some interesting stuff in here. There's if you say 101 things, it really truly is 101 things here. I mean, obviously the first thing would be a landline and an answering machine. That if we remember back in the old days, we all had those at one point or another here. That this was something that we had available here back in these old days. I can remember it fondly. I'm sure we all can here. And then there was this number of other stuff. What stands out for you guys? So what
Some of these things
iPhone?
were replaced by cell phones before the iPhone happened.
Yeah, true.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, landline and the answer machine. Yeah, for sure.
And some of them are double counting, like
And the
books, and
payphone.
book reader, and
payphone,
paper,
right.
and notes. So I mean, I think
Books and dictionary and thesaurus.
right, and maps and globes and GPS. So I mean, if you did a dedupe, there's probably like maybe 30 or 40 items, but still, it's a lot of technological consolidation in one device that fits in your pocket, and it fits more than 1,000 songs, even.
Oh, and then some. What stands out to you, Mark, as far as your iPhone goes? What did it replace that you're happy that it did?
Oh, probably still cameras and video cameras.
Yeah.
Instead of having to lug along a whole bunch of different devices, one little iPhone. It's okay. It's not being okay. Maybe it's being displayed there, but yeah,
there you go.
One little thin device. It's just fantastic, as well as the ability to put a lot of music into it. I think those are probably the three biggest things for me.
Yeah, they talk about the radio, the turntable, a cassette tape, a CD player, a Walkman, a Discman. When you talk about music, those were all things I think probably most of us, not all of us, owned at one point or another. I think we still have a turntable somewhere here. And vinyl's making a comeback with sound, but the fact of the matter, if you have that device to listen to anything. I mean, I was listening on a book on Audible, being able to listen to that. I mean, remember people would go to the library and get their cassette tapes of a book on tape to listen to a book on tape or a CD, and you'd have to have your Discman or your Walkman to be able to listen to that. Well, now, everything is streaming, so it's just so easy. Yeah, even the boombox, they even mentioned that too. I mean, oh my God, I remember having that big boombox sitting up on your shoulder there. And,
Good times.
Yeah.
Dave, when I look at this list, I don't see it as my iPhone replacing all of these things. I mean, sure, there's some things like a GPS and maps, but to me, it's more a list of everything that my iPhone consolidated. Because before I had my iPhone, I walked around with an iPod and my Palm Planner and and a cell phone and a digital camera. These are just all the things that I went with everywhere. And with the iPhone, ultimately, I was able to leave all those things behind and carry just the one device. And ultimately, that turned my iPhone into my portable office. And while I was afraid that would actually be like a leash tying me to my desk all the time, it was freeing, because now I was able to do the things that I wanted to do wherever I was, or things that I needed to do. And because I don't feel like I am required to address everything my iPhone tells me as soon as it tells me something. Like a text message came in, a call is coming in, an email came in. I'm not tethered. I'm free to use my device as I need wherever I am. And that's been the biggest thing for the iPhone for me.
And we will welcome back Chuck back to the show, since we lost him. I mean, you knew it was going to happen. So
I knew it. It's just unbelievable. And so it sounds like you guys have already dug into one of the first articles.
Yes, we're talking about the 101 things that the iPhone was replaced by.
Replaced. Yeah.
I wonder if it's not more interesting, some of the things that the iPhone has enabled that just couldn't exist before. Like, let's take ride sharing.
Yes.
Uber and Lyft. Which, that's not really a replacement. I mean, you sort of had taxis and, but the phone itself doesn't do that, but it enabled it by the combination of a communication device and it's, GPS. By putting all those things into one thing, it enabled something new that you just couldn't do before. Or, for example, with photography, yes, it replaces a camera, but also now all the photos, they're all GPS tagged and time tagged. So I can go back and say, well, where are the pictures that I took on that trip, and it just automatically happens. And I know there's probably other things that that I'm not thinking of, that having a device that that it's enabled having a portable computing device with communications and GPS and everything that just couldn't be done at all. And in a lot of cases, Jeff, you mentioned that you carried things, but a lot of that stuff I didn't carry. I didn't carry a camera anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't carry everywhere. I would carry a camera if I thought that I'm going to be, somewhere interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But, that was just a small percentage of the time, even though I had film camera, I had a pretty small film camera that I could carry around, but by no means did I carry it everywhere.
I did actually. I had a little, compact little point and shoot digital camera.
Yeah.
And, and since I was at the time spending so much time downtown in city center areas, there's always just interesting things that I was seeing that I wanted to photograph. So I just carried a camera with me all the time.
But I think most people didn't do that.
No, we live in Bourneville and nothing goes on here.
And at this point, pretty much everybody does. Like, I was just driving down the freeway a couple days ago, and I was looking around, and I'm thinking, like, almost every car around me has a cell phone in it. And most of them are reporting back to Google on what the traffic conditions are. Mm-hmm. And so, there's another, we've got, traffic maps, and we know what the traffic is in real time.
Right.
That data just wasn't available to anyone 20 years ago. And, they were starting to put up like cameras to, monitor that, but, they don't even need that now. It's just like, we just get that information off everybody's devices, and it's more accurate. And, if a backup starts up, a couple miles from me, it's going to show up on my phone almost immediately. Another thing I'll notice is sometimes I'll take a back route, like I'll be like, oh, there's a lot of traffic, so I'll jump off, and now I'll notice like there's more traffic on this back route than I would expect, because I think a bunch of other people are using their phone to navigate the same back route that I am.
One of the reasons I put this article in, it wasn't supposed to be all that deep. It was just supposed to be sort of a fun thing, but it does make you realize just how many things you do with the iPhone that you did with something else, or as Jim said, that you couldn't do. Webb in the chat room says that it replaced his credit card in a sense. And Webb, I think you have something there. Mobile payments, mobile banking. It was one thing to be banking on the web, but now you can bank anywhere you want to. So there's that. I
Social
know
media that wouldn't have been what it is today without the advent of smartphones.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And I can't say that I carried a notebook, even a small notebook anywhere, but now you don't. You just go and you take pictures of things. So if you're in a meeting, you don't have to copy everything off the whiteboard. You just take a picture of it.
Exactly.
And you've got it, and you don't have to worry about whether you transcribed it correctly.
Well, not only that, you can send it to somebody. And, I'll be on the phone with somebody and I'll be like, oh, you should see this. And then I'm like, oh, here.
And now you can.
There it is.
Yep.
Now you can see it.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah. So many.
You
so
can do
many
that across the world, and that's the crazy part. Is you could send somebody to Australia, and they'll see it at that second. Where 20 years ago, that was not going to happen.
At the risk of derailing this, did you guys see yesterday the story that came out about a pediatrician told somebody, their son was having some difficulty in his genital area.
Yep.
And they said, send me a photo. And
Oh boy.
Google shut down all the person's accounts, which meant he lost his phone, he lost his email address, he lost his internet too, I think, because I think he had Google Internet. And as far as I know, he hasn't gotten any of that back.
But I don't disagree with Google doing that. I mean, that's their job, is to block young people's privates, and that's what it did.
The problem there is that they're relying on completely automated systems.
I mean, it was a picture. I mean, it was a correct picture of it. The intent was not there between these two parties.
And an automated system can't figure that out.
Right, but the picture was still there. And if it comes out, there's definitely people who aren't the intended target. That
I think this was more than an automated system, because they sent all this to the police. And in fact, apparently the police have the only copies of this. They do. He doesn't have any of his photographs. Says he apparently was using Google Photos. It sounds like he had an Android phone, so he doesn't have any of this anymore. The police apparently have it, but this was brought the doctors contacted Google, and Google's just like, we don't care, you're done.
Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Zocdoc. Find local doctors who take your insurance at Zocdoc.com/MacVoices. Yes, that's right. Go to Zocdoc.com/MacVoices, find the doctor that's right for you, and book an appointment in person or remotely that works with your schedule. Not their schedule, your schedule. With Zocdoc, you can find the right doctor for you in your network and in your neighborhood. One that makes you feel like you're in good hands, you're supported, and that you're heard. And that's what you want in a doctor. That's what you need in a doctor. Go to Zocdoc.com/MacVoices and download the Zocdoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's Zocdoc.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Zocdoc for their support of MacVoices.
I think that's exactly what the problem is, okay, an automated system may flag it. It should be escalated. But, he shouldn't lose, all. I think I read the same story. He shouldn't lose all of, his accounts and data and other thing because, automated system didn't know he was, sending a picture of his son to the doctor. Human intervention, they can come in and okay, maybe sounds fishy. They get information from the doctor. They can validate it. Okay, it just costs people a bunch of time to make that happen. But to punitively destroy and lock out accounts, Google.
No, I mean,
and it is a cautionary tale.
No, hold on, but
he apparently kept his contacts in Google.
I'm sorry, Chuck. I created an edit point for you.
No, but I'm sure they didn't wipe the account. Any IT company is going to disable everything. They're going to let this go through its process, and then I'm sure they're going to re-enable it. I guarantee you, in a week or two, they will be re-enabled.
Right, Warren, I agree with you, but how much grief and suffering does this poor person need to go through in order to make it happen?
No, he lost everything. He has
photos.
Again, they're not gone.
Contact.
He doesn't have a phone anymore. He has no communication system.
He can't. All his other accounts he cannot access because
the process needs to move quick. That's what I'm saying.
His two-factor authentication.
This should have been done today, but somebody at some point should.
Okay, one at a time, guys.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it. I get that it's inconvenient, and I think this should have been, a clear-cut case. And would this have become a news story if this all happened and sometime last night Google said, "Okay, we looked this over and hit the on button. You're back on." I mean, I
think it actually happened last week, and it nothing's.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Again,
It was several days ago.
I'd be pissed about the time it's taken, especially if this, if it's a clear-cut case and they see it. But if they couldn't turn his account on, and he'll be fine. He didn't lose everything.
Okay, but Warren, you're making
dramatic.
But Warren, you're making an assumption that their systems, they may be asymmetric. It may be a lot easier to lock down and disconnect, and all sorts of stuff than it is to turn back on and restore.
And it seems
and
clear
Apple goes through this too, right? Apple does this with the developers, and there's misunderstanding, and you hear their horror stories too because it's algorithms and things like that. And you're dealing with big companies, and I've heard the story not just with Google and Apple, but plenty of companies where they see something, they flag it, they shut it down, and it takes awful amount of time to prove your innocence. But
it seems clear that if he does get his accounts back, it'll only because he managed to escalate to the media, and most people can't do that.
Well, Jim, isn't that what you see in every local TV news station? That we have somebody on your side, or somebody, consumer reporters, that the only way to get to
right. But Warren's saying it's not a problem because it's going to get reversed. I don't.
I'm asking you, would it have been a problem if it got reversed a couple hours after it happened? I guess is what I'm asking.
No, but there's no policy. Google is stating you're done. Don't ever. You're finished. You're banned for life.
Google's saying that we saw something we didn't like. We're turning your accounts off. Let's figure it out. And
no, that's not what they're saying. It out. They're saying you are permanently banned.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then again, if this guy's going to keep going to the news,
we have no procedures for adjudicating. Google's word is final. You can't.
Is that what they're saying in this link?
You can't appeal it internally. You can't appeal it to court. I would love to.
I'm bringing up the link. I can't imagine they would say that we can't get your stuff back. But
Jim, I haven't read the particular article, but I don't know any reason that he couldn't adjudicate it in some fashion. Even if it required him to file suit. That somewhere there, a judge who would look at this would say, Google, look, you got to turn his stuff back on. Whether his photos and all that can be recovered or not. He really shouldn't.
Maybe I don't think.
And you need to pay him $10 million in compensatory damages.
Well, probably.
Not the name of the guy.
I don't off the top, but it was on. I saw it in a bunch of places yesterday. He probably doesn't have a contractual agreement with Google. He doesn't. You don't pay them anything, so Google would probably just say in court, we provide service as we feel like it.
Yeah, but that could be a really dangerous precedent to set in one direction or the other. To say that Google, because Google has a lot of power, and we all use Google for so many things, one way or another, sooner or later you cross Google's paths. And to say that you're permanently banned from Google because of something like this that is an honest, it's not even a mistake. It's just a use case that maybe hasn't been anticipated. Because it doesn't take a lot of imagination to figure how many times that could be applied to a lot of different body parts completely legitimately, especially in a world now where we have remote medicine becoming more and more popular.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the commentary I saw was certainly the medical staff should have known not to ask for this.
That's a bunch of tech-aware people recognizing
right. Well,
it.
But I mean, to me, this is mostly a cautionary. If this comes up, okay, be forewarned. Don't do this. Also like make sure you have alternate, accesses to things. Maybe have other emails set up in advance. Maybe.
So this happened, by the way, in December of 2021. So this is an older. It was just reported yesterday, but it happened last year. At the end of the story was if you read the bottom, they said they exonerated him of any wrongdoings.
The police exonerated him, not Google.
Police, right? But basically, I put it in the chat. But that wasn't enough. He still couldn't access any of his Google accounts. He thought about suing Google, but figured it wasn't worth the $7,000 legal fees. I mean, I don't know if there's more to that, but I still don't understand. Maybe because a lot of time went by between that and when Google shut them down. But typically, no company in the world is kind of just wipe it and say we can't reinstate it, or they have a policy saying, you know what, you pissed us off by fighting with us and whatever. I don't know, but it's a weird story, to be honest with you.
But Warren, here,
so it's been months and he doesn't have access. So you were wrong, Warren.
He gave up, right? Yeah, he gave up on it. I mean, he could sue him for it.
Well, but go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say he could sue them, but like the piece says, to him spending the $7,000 for a civil case to try and get Google to reactivate all of his accounts. To me, if I were in a situation where a company like Google decided that they're just going to carte blanche shut down everything I had, of course I'd have backups of everything. But
right, and that's where I'm going real fast with that. Is you guys were like, Google destroyed his life by this. I mean,
yeah, and they did.
Why don't we? I mean, this guy should have it again. Backup somewhere else.
So
if Apple came to me and said, "You're done. We're done with you," I would be okay. I have backups.
But that's because you're Warren. The average person doesn't understand any of this, and they trust these companies that are handling all of the data. And so it doesn't occur to them that at any moment, any of these companies can say, you're done, and then you have no access and no recourse.
Yeah. And I spread the word, and Dave does too, to back up in two places, cloud.
Yeah, and that's great.
Warren,
but
that's not the point.
That's not the point. The point is that people are trusting these services.
Yeah, how about people that have only an Android phone? How are they supposed to do that, Warren?
How to back up their stuff? I don't know how they do it before. I don't know.
They probably can only back
Google
it to
services.
Google. Yeah.
That's not true. When you take a picture on your phone, you turn on Google Photos just like you do on an iPhone. Believe me, it's the same thing. What I'm telling you is not to trust. Apple, while they won't do this, had problems with their cloud photos once or twice for people where they thought they were syncing their photos and they were gone, and Apple tried to get it back, I'm sure. But I tell people two places at all time, because these are clouds and these are other people's computers, and they're not perfect. And the fact that Google just said screw you, you're done, it could have just been Apple saying sorry, you put the beta on, now your iCloud photo library is gone. I'm just saying, don't trust these companies. That should be the word. Two places, and this guy's life should not have been ruined. I mean,
yeah, no, Warren, you're not wrong about any of that. But at the end of the day, this is a tech podcast. We're all tech people. Everybody listening to this has some tech bent of some kind. There are very few civilians listening to this, and there are very few civilians that appreciate the issues we're talking, the degree to which they're dependent on some of the large companies, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, whether it's Apple. That you have a lot of
Sure.
things,
And
a lot of
generally, most of the
connectivity.
people who don't understand the things go the other way and say, they don't understand the cloud. It's like, and that because that's a new thing, right? That came out before. So
I have a confession, Warren.
Mhm.
I know I should back up all those things. Many of them are just in Google and iCloud anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you should. Well, that's a good
Okay.
confession. I yes, go for it.
It's just normal. It's a thing that happens. Like, I haven't gotten around to it. That is not at the top of my
Right,
many
but
list of priorities.
A lot of people who come to me that don't understand, computers and phones, the backing up automatically to the cloud is a thing they think is not really happening until you explain it to them. So generally, you don't get a lot of people who don't understand things saying, "Oh, it's Google, it's Apple, everything's just there." And believe me, in the early days of Apple and Google, that absolutely was zero the case, because plenty of people went to Apple and say, you have my stuff, right? And it's like, no, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, we don't have that, we don't have that. So people got a little gun shy around that time. Things are better, but I disagree. I don't think the instinct of non-techie people would say it's automatically in somebody's cloud. I would think it's the other way around.
Okay, so the underlying problem here isn't whether or not someone thinks their data is being backed up or managed for them by a company with a pretty logo. The underlying problem is that while CSAM is necessary and important, because we do need to make sure that children are protected, but here's the other part of it. We have these companies that have set up systems where they have fully automated the process of going through and reviewing images and other content, and then using machine learning and AI systems to parse all of that and decide what's okay and what isn't. And they have, in their effort to automate, removed the human factor that can go in and actually find the nuances and figure out that in this case, this is a parent sending a photo to the doctor so that they can do a remote diagnosis, as opposed to this is someone that has taken an obviously illegal and illicit photo of a child and is now sending it to someone else. So,
Jeff, I want to go ahead. Finish it.
No, good.
Sorry.
Okay. So anyhow, to wrap that up, the problem is that when we become so reliant on the automation and just simply trust that it's doing the right thing, then we fall into the trap of what we're seeing here in this case, where Google is saying, yeah, we're not going to back down. Our machine told us this is bad. That's good enough for us. Case closed.
And so, Jeff, yeah. I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm going to point out the fact that these companies have all been under the gun in so many ways for allegedly facilitating child pornography and the like, that they've had to put some of these things in place. By the very nature of it, they've just had to.
To me, the problem is that they don't have an appeal process.
Agreed, Jim. Agreed.
Right, but if a true pedophile somehow came out and sent one picture and said, no, this was a picture, because my doctor, blah blah blah, whatever.
No, but the doctors corroborate the story.
Right, but as Chuck said, Google and Apple are not going to be able to want to care that much at that point, because there's just so much.
No, Warren, I'm not saying I agree with Jim. There should be an appeal process, and of course, Jeff, if we had the capabilities right now of digging in and saying this is a parent sending it to a doctor, then everybody be screaming privacy. You're monitoring everything I send and whoever I send it to.
Well,
So,
ironically, that's literally what happened in this case.
Actually, it's not. Google saw the picture because it was in his Google Photos. He did not email the picture to the doctor. They used, the doctor had a portal, and they uploaded it through the website through the portal. So Google had nothing to do with that. Google found it because it was just in his photo library.
No, but that's what I mean. Google has access to all of your data, and they can monitor all of your data and parse through it as they please and at their leisure. And that's how they found this image. So, people that would, no, let me come at this a different way. Okay, so what Chuck is saying is like people should be screaming, my privacy, my privacy. Okay, they have chosen not to pay attention to the privacy issues simply because they have the convenience of a free service that lets them have email and store their photos and write letters with friends online.
This panel is back in the next edition of MacVoices to talk more, actually argue more, about Google's call to ban a user over a photo he uploaded that maybe he shouldn't have uploaded, but he also maybe should have been aware of the potential. We also talk about some Beats Pro and a whole lot more. That's all next time on MacVoices. I hope you'll join us. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.